don't find the money, make a script with no budget, a homemade film, let's say, in your home with not a professional. If a professional wants to play, okay. If he doesn't want to play, don't use him. We don't want the artist is energy. If you don't express yourself, you don't feel happy. And not only to express, but also to communicate. But as you see, we have a lot of communication through, for example, your festivals. This is why I love your festival. This is what we want also. We want to find a way to make films, uh, just to make films. Is, you know, in Greece, maybe we have 150 theaters because the actors are like us. The actors wants to play. If they don't play, they are sad. I mean, maybe they destroy themselves. So it's better to play without having a money. Otherwise, you feel terrible. This is what also a director should be, like the actors, like the Greek actors.
So, good evening. This is Mr. Vasilis Vafeas, the director of Day Off. I hope you enjoy it, and on Festival Scope, where it was screened. Thank you so much for being part of this first edition of the festival. We are very honored to include your film in our program on our classics section. Here is also Ioana Kriona, my dear colleague from Greece, who made the press selection of all the films from Greece, and we discussed together the final program. And the Romanian film critic Cristi Mărculescu, who will moderate this discussion. And I think I will let Mr. Vasilis Vafeas to introduce Caterina, because I think it's from the team.
Caterina Maliu is the secretary of our association of producers of the modern cinema, the Greek modern cinema. And also with us should be also a young boy, which is a fantastic sculpture, very known abroad, not only in Greece. Dionysis Kavalieratos. He is the guy who played, when he was 3 years old, he played a small part in at his home, because we went there at his home. This is why I did the day off. I was using all the houses of our friends, and some public place like the school, for example, a school. But if you want to use as a set a school, you should work in summer or during the Easter, the New Year holidays, or the Easter holidays, or the weekends. So it was shuttered during weekends and jour de fête. I don't think that now, from production point of view, I mean, you can make a film with very small amount of money, but in natural sets. Otherwise, you should make, for example, the post office. It's impossible to buy all those balances that it was shown in my set, unless you go during the Easter, during the Christmas or whatever it is, and use the original place. They don't give you now the permission to shoot in public spaces. It was the first year of PASOK in '81, and it was, I mean, every artist should use all the political moment that he could go through this, the gap that is between the two eras, between let's say, the left PASOK, the left Syriza, and the right Nea Demokratia. We are obliged. This is why I was said this morning, we should be smuggler. If you don't be a smuggler, it's very difficult if you are a poor country like Greece, like Romania, like Bulgaria. It's a very difficult to make films without money, unless you are a smuggler. And we are smugglers. This is why I love Greece. I was born in Egypt, but then I never went back to Egypt. When I came, when I was 13 years old, I never went to Egypt because I was obliged to drown in my homeland country. I love Greece, and this is why I don't want also to live abroad. I prefer to come back to Greece. If I could make now a day off, let's say day off number 2, it will be like this, plus more wild, because the situation now is wild. Each one hates everyone. Now, at that time when I was young, I could reach all those situations from a sentimental point of view. Now I don't have any, I love people, but I don't have any tenderness in my looking. It's wild, the life in Greece is very wild. And I think all over the place, but in Greece is worse.
Go back to...
You see, Dionysus is with us. Dionysus is a fantastic sculpture. And you see, Dionysus is just below Ioanna.
Yes, good
Dionysus
evening.
is a fantastic. He can explain what experience. You were 3 years old when you are born.
Yasas.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Very
Yes.
well.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
I'm here.
nice. I just managed to come in. So,
Welcome.
hello.
Hello, I will
I am-
hand over to Cristi Marculescu, who is
Yes,
the Romanian film critic who really liked your film, and now he wants to put in a context the entire shooting and also the release of the film in 80s. So let's go back a bit and talk a bit about the film, and then to come back to these stories.
Yes, let's go back, and I would I always trust the local experience for national cinemas more than outside perspectives that are also very nice to have. But I would like Ioana to introduce this film and a fact that is very interesting. We know very few things about Greek cinema in the late 70s and early 80s. Ioana,
Yes.
can you help us with us?
I will. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Vafeas, thank you very much for being here. We are very glad to be able to show your film. So thank you again and welcome again. I would like to say about Mr. Vasilis Vafeas that he's a great filmmaker of his generation. And with his work, he participated at big and established festivals such as Berlinale, Cannes Directors Fortnight, even Karlovy Vary, Shanghai International Film Festival, Sao Paulo. So he is internationally acknowledged and acclaimed. And with Day Off, which was his second, if I'm right, his second feature film.
Yes, the second, yes.
Exactly. He participated at Munich Film Festival, La Rochelle in France, and San Sebastian as well. So as you see, his films are having a very nice run internationally, which means for me, and especially at the example of Day Off, What I'm seeing is a very, very universal approach. I see a very timeless film, which is even today up to date. So this is what I find so impressive about this work. And regarding all the details, we can continue with Christy's focus on the film and the story, as we do in our Q&As. So thank you again very much. And I'm also very glad that this film represents Greece in that sense, Greek film history. There are names such as Theo Angelopoulos or those kind of stars that we used to hear about at international level. But I strongly believe that this film is very, very same level, even higher to my personal view than others who were more acclaimed. So I think it's also it's also important as a programmer for me to pick up something that no one that it's not that known as, you know, an Angelopoulos who everybody would pick up and screen. So maybe this is a bit too critical as a direction, but I would like to point this out because for me it's important, and Mr. Vafeas is a great part of our film history in Greece, and I strongly believe that.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
very
you
much,
for
Joanna. Yes,
Joanna,
yes.
thank you very
Yes,
much.
Christy. Pardon?
I wanted to thank you, Anna, because it's for me it was a very, very big and pleasant and impeccable surprise to see Day Off. It's a film that does justice to an era, and what I really am curious about, because you mentioned earlier, it was an exact moment when you did this film. You mentioned something political about the parties in Greece and how they changed, and the exact moment when you did this film. So I think you should give us a bit of context. How was Greece back then? How did this film get done, basically? Because it's a feature, it's a very, very complex thing to do. You are being very, very pirate-like. We did it in the houses of our friends, and you told us everything about that. But I'm pretty sure it was a very complex thing to put together. So tell us how it started and what the era was, because the Romanian 80s are radically different from the Greek 80s. And I'm pretty sure that in all 5 countries in this festival, the 80s were very different from one country to another in all aspects. So politically, socially, even technology might have been a bit different in the 80s.
I mean, this is my second film. And if you could watch my first film, it's totally different because I was working as a chemist in a factory, and it was very, I mean, it is a closed area, a factory, and when I left the factory, I was it was only during the weekends, so I decided to make a film when I was working in a factory only as I felt in weekends. And this is why I select all those areas. The people, I mean, the houses of my friends and the post offices and the douane. And this is why I said I was trying to shoot when the people, they don't work there. Unless it's a house of a friend, like is Dionysus' parents. Dionysus at that time, it was 3 years old. So I like also improvisation. So I went there, I watched Dionysus, he's a fantastic guy, but it was a fantastic child. And I told him, you want to play in this film? And he said, what should I do? And I told him that you should spell.
Swear.
you should spell to the main character. And this is why he said, Ade vrecho dromalaka. So this is how the whole film was. And you cannot. The problem is because if you make a film, if you are an artist, you have an anxious to make to express yourself, but the audience they don't want to see your anxiety. He wants to enjoy what they see. This is why our profession is difficult, because you are a guy full of anxious, but you pretend that you are not anxious. It's difficult. I mean, we are crazy people, all the artists. And the life, not only art, life also needs a foolish approach. So this is what I was trying to do. And if you can see my next film, the film that was shown in Kenzen the Realizateur, the director's fortnight, The Laugh of Ulysses, it's something totally different, but is totally free. It's not like Repo. In the end of Repo, you feel again that is a little bit, he goes back to his factory, to his office, and you feel like the main character feels. Yes, this is the situation. If I was trying to make, let's say, the Day Off 2, the sequel of Day Off should be paroxysmic. It's not. It's a paroxysmic period. Yes. Now it's totally different. I can send you also my short film that I was shot in March of 20, and it's a little bit. It's a bitter film. It's a bitter film.
Yeah, talking about bitter film, I really like your protagonist, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to like him, because in a way or another, he's not a very nice guy. He's he got a complicated life, and he also has all the small problems with everyday life. I mean, most of the things that are him interacting with the guys in the garage trying to repair his car, those are brilliant, and also could happen, I think, in all Eastern Europe. That's very, very, very typical. And how did you actually feel for him? Did you like this guy? Did you consider him
No, I don't.
Somewhere on the road to improvement, or on the road to, I don't know, decay? Because he's not very happy in the end.
No, this is why he make all those relations. I mean, he has a wonderful wife, but he has also two lovers, one in the company and one outside the company. So it's an unhappy man, because he doesn't like his job. We are lucky because we love our job. This is why an artist is lucky, not because we suffer most of the time, but we are happy because we suffer in a place that we want to live. Most of the people, the middle class Greeks, they don't love their job. And this is why they are unhappy. And this is why they create problems with relations and more relation. And he became like a tarantula. I mean, in a net. He's trying to solve small problems. He was trying to make some, during his jour de repos, he was trying to fix all those things that they are left. And everyone is a dictator. I mean, the the car mechanical guy. They are dictator. He wants to eat. I mean, he says all those behavior. But meanwhile, he wants to go to see her lover, his lover, and the lover, she cannot wait till he comes. He called her every 5 minutes, and he said that I have a problem, and because I should send a machine outside. Is again a guy in periphery. We are not in Germany, we are not in France, we are not in Holland. We are a peripheric country. And in periphery, the situation is more complicated. More complicated. This is why, I mean, I'm happy that Joanna, she's living in Germany, and she has with Mirona this good relationship, and they create things. Most of the people are not happy in Greece.
Yes, it is on a certain level a film about avoiding to realize how unhappy you are. I mean, this is the main guy's thing, is that he is unhappy, but trying to somehow divert his mind with the small things he does. It's also very interesting how the family is, because it's such a, it functions heartwarming, but it's also amusing, and it's also a bit pathetic, the way they interact in the family. Like when he visits the family with the kid and the aunt, who is always upset that somebody is eating all the sweets in the house. That's a very nice touch there.
You like it very. This is what, when I was in 81, the people said I don't like this scene, but this is a very characteristic scene for somebody who can watch a Greek family. Now I changed. I mean, in the day of, it was all this behavior outside his house, and now, if you can see my last film in 2016, I shot it. It's totally the family, totally the family. I mean,
Yeah.
We in Greece, we suffer from the family, not only in Greece and abroad, but in a different way, as you said. It's totally different, the behavior of a Romanian guy in his family, totally different in France, totally, I mean, for a petit bourgeois, I'm not talking for a worker. Worker, if he wants to be a petit bourgeois, he could react like my hero. But is the things that I don't want to be like him. This is why I throw out the chemical background, and I became, let's say, an artist that is like an artist of circus. I was a general manager in a pharmaceutical company, but I don't like at all to be a general manager in a pharmaceutical company. I prefer to feel like an acrobat. This is what we are, and we like to be acrobats.
It's you kept talking about being on the periphery, at the edge of things, and somehow he's having an entire, let's say, odyssey with quotes in the margins of the city. All of his day is spent not in the center, but on the side of the city. Am I right with this? Because there is a moment.
Yes, he goes from the one side. This is why he chooses a lover in the other side of the city, because he doesn't want to have a neighborhood, a relationship, a love affair with a neighbor, because this is why he travels through those big roads from to the other side of the city. is somebody who is escaped from himself. Because if he doesn't like his life, let's divorce. Why he stay with his wife?
No, I was thinking it's a very nice moment when he exits one building, and there are some wild herbs like bushes, and a very typical old lady with a goat. I think it's a goat, right? It's
a
that
goat,
moment he gets outside, and it's
yes, it's a
an old
goat,
lady
because
making the bushes.
we are not an industrial country. We are an agricultural country, and in the wall of the building, it was mentioned the 17% the Parti Communiste, QQE, because at that time in 80s, the Parti Communiste wants to be in the government. Now they don't want. This is why they stay outside and they criticize. But at that time, this is why things change. Things change, but things remain the same. This is something that we should also discuss. Things change, but the important things remains the same.
Yes, it's very strange because in a way or another, it's a nice transition to the next thing I want to talk to you. How about the young filmmakers from Greece now? Because I saw some of the Greek films, not only in this festival, but when I come to the Thessaloniki Film Festival, I'm always curious for the new Greek films and new directions.
The whale cinema.
Yes, I would dare to ask something, and it comes from somebody who likes very much some of the Greek weird wave cinema. Is this good to have just one visible direction? Because the weird cinema is very good when it's a success. Otherwise, you see, as far as I saw, many attempts to replicate the weirdness that sometimes feels very forced. And
I agree with you, Christy. I agree with you. But we can talk with Dionysis, because Dionysis is not a filmmaker, but is a filmmaker.
Oh.
He's a sculptor. Yes, you are a sculptor, but he's a fantastic sculptor. But let's say you met some new film directors. You met
Me,
because
myself?
now, yes.
I know some, yes. I agree. Excuse me, my friend, you spoke before. What is your name?
Christian.
Christy.
Christy.
Yes.
I agree with you about this new wave of weird cinema. Yes, there are good things, but also it's forced sometimes. You see that it's not authentic. You see movies that are forced, that don't come straight out of honesty, you know, if you know what I mean. But yeah, let's move to what did you ask me? Can you hear me?
I asked you.
What did you ask me?
I asked you if you want to make some sculpture, but with the optical, like most of the sculpture now and the painters that they are do. I mean, you want to use the camera.
I see. Well, I you don't know this, but I have also made videos, little short movies.
I want to see them.
I never showed you, Vasily. Yes, I will send you. I will send you.
Good. So we have a.
Can we go back?
He's a fantastic sculptor. I mean, not only in Greece and abroad.
What's the opinion of both of you about what can be done now let's say in Greek cinema, but it's not just in Greek cinema, to move things forward? Because somehow you had an answer that was actually very brave and also very realistic about how we should react to this blockage that COVID caused. And you said something, we should be smugglers and we should just go on making films even if there's no money, and we should not wait for somebody to come and say, okay, this is money, make a movie. What's the possible exit? I mean, let's be optimistic about it. A happy exit from this crisis for Greek cinema, judging by what you think and what you saw from the new generation. And I know you actually...
Through the new generation has a very weak point because we don't have money in Greece, and because they don't want to risk, the artists, the directors, they don't want to risk. Because, I mean, in our era, we were producers, script writers, and this was a weak position. But it's not only weak, it's a weak position, but it's a strength position. Because we don't afraid of how we could produce something, because we can produce. This is why the producer directors is something that without them in Greece we cannot reach. We cannot create films, because if we need a producers and the producer wants to find money, not only for him, not only for the film, but also for him, then they'll have problems. So we are obliged to teach the new generation to don't be afraid. They should have risk to be the producer, to be the distributors. Otherwise, I mean, we cannot be Angelopoulos or Lanthimos, all of us. It's impossible. Why? I don't know why, but because of. But we need to express, and we want to communicate after the expression, because if you express and your film could not see it from anybody, you feel unhappy. So we should express ourselves, and then we should communicate. And this is why it's important, your movement, your festival. And you put some classic, let's say.
Ioana?
I'm here.
We're still on this question. What is an optimistic exit from this COVID crisis for the, let's say, recent Greek cinema, new authors, new films? How do you see it, or how do you wish it?
Well, I think it's a bit soon to foresee what's coming, because we can surely not be sure about the outcome of the crisis. I mean, now the economic part of it, not the artistic. And back to the artistic, I think it's also quite early for this part as well. For example, let's say films that are made already about the pandemic, corona films, the so-called corona films. I think it's quite early to digest this whole situation, which was for all of us quite existential, and it still is. So I would wait a bit to do some kind of prediction. What I hope for is that we get stronger out of this, and definitely, like Mr. Vaffea said, be able to improvise, because for an artist, to be able to be creative is everything in life. You know, it's expression is like breathing, and I truly believe that those who really need this breath, they will continue and find ways. But it's definitely a big discussion when it also comes to distribution, or how those films reach the audience, or on the other side, how interested the creative, the filmmaker is to reach those audiences, because there are people who make films because they just want to make films for themselves, which is not bad. I mean, it's also this kind of approach. Not everyone wants to approach wide audiences or whatever. So I think it's a complex, you know, and we are in an era where we now have very forcibly also the streaming part in our lives, which is a very different experience. People are getting used to it, but in a very quick way. So we cannot really deal with it in depth. And smaller productions still have to work on this part to be able to make their films accessible through the online paths. So it's this new era which came too early, kind of, I think. So we expected the streaming future, but not exclusively, and not that quick. So I think there are many questions coming up. Those questions are questions we have to target to the audiences as well, not only to the creatives, but also to a great respect to those who make the films. And again, those people, it's different to be a producer. Other questions come up when you're a producer, or when you're, again, an artist, as we say, the film director. So I really, maybe it's like, if we compare it, maybe it's exaggerating, but some people do compare it with, you know, the crisis between the wars, or during wars, or such extreme situations. So if we allowed ourselves to compare it with such periods in the history of arts in general, this is a great time to make good things. I mean, people are facing a tremendous amount of existential questions every day, which we might not be able to, as I say, to digest right now. But in future, we might see great examples, great films, great ideas, great approaches. And this is my optimism in that context, I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's a question that yeah, you're very right. We will still look for an answer for some years to come. But also in between wars, cinema, at least American cinema, overcompensated for the very bad and sometimes tragic situation. And it was a great era for musicals with a lot of color and dancing, and for comedies. If you look as a historian, and with the hindsight we have now, yes, of course, you can see in the interwar period all the bad things showing up in some films. But on the other hand, the masses were buying with half the money they had bread, and with the other half a ticket to see some films that were generally musical extravaganzas. So yeah, I'm also curious about this, and we don't have an answer, but we'll see. Let's get back back on track, because we took a bit of a step aside. So Vasilis,
Yes.
What's this thing that sometimes a director needs to express? Is it sharing, or is it some sort of taking some very, very hard things from your soul when you say that creativity needs to express? Because just from day off, I'd say it's a creative process that for me is fascinating, but I don't know if you created this character and all this universe around him in order to, you know, point him with the finger and say, this is a petit bourgeois, he's a bit pathetic, or if you actually wanted him to be memorable, because for me he's memorable, but he's memorable in the whole context. Like when he goes to the medical thing, and they move in the corridors and they change their positions. Tell us exactly, I might be a bit too much, but Did you choreograph it? Did you use a choreographer to move the characters?
No, no. Look, a film director is a sneaky guy. He's a little bit actor, a little bit choreographer, a little bit painter, a little bit dialogue. So it's a smuggler, as I mentioned in our conversation in 3 o'clock. But the problem is that for me, I want. I mean, I have some experiences. I read something in a book or in a poem. I saw somebody told me a story. It's not me that François Truffaut said that. So you mixture all those things, 20% of your experience, 20% of what you read it in a book, 20% what you read in a newspaper. You imagine another 20%, and you have a script. So we can write a lot of scripts every day. We can write if you have the way to live. For example, if you are a retired guy like me. Yes. This is why what I prefer to see in a cinema. Some reality and something outside of reality. I'm going back to what Buñuel said. You should go out from the reality, but when you go out, you are obliged to come back. Otherwise, you lose the game. If you go upstairs and you don't and you watch from there. You don't have any communication, not after 40 years, even after 2000 years. So this is what we want. We want to go from the reality to use some imagination, and then you are obliged to come back to the reality.
Okay,
This is why
Mirona?
I love very much. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, Mirona.
Yes. Yeah, maybe one more question, and we have to finish the discussion. And thank you again for this. I wonder if Mr. Dionysis would like to say something regarding this exhibition of classic films in the festivals and maybe in the cinema in the upcoming, I don't know, months or years.
Excuse me, Mirona, what did you say? The exhibition of plastic?
Of classic films.
Of classic.
Yeah.
Because, of classic. Yes.
To bring alive these films is an important direction of the festival, and also an important direction to build this bridge between cinephiles and showing this type of films and having discussions. And what's your opinion? Because I am interested also to have your feedback.
The opinion about the fact to show these films, you mean?
Yes.
To show historical films, to make films that are old, to make them present and show them to the audiences.
Of course, it's for me, I watch old movies also, so it's for me, movies are not endless. They don't die. If a movie is good, it's a classic. It never dies. So of course you show old movies because they're always fresh. If they're good, if they're classics, and yeah, of course you should show old movies. I mean, that's not a good question. Of course, it's. I'm joking you, eh?
Very well. Okay, so thank you again. It was a really honor to
Thank you again. Thank you, Ioana, because I met Mirona and Christy and the other people. I mean, I'm very glad that we discussed and we met each other.
It's
Yes.
it's a pity that we also didn't have the garage, the guy, the car mechanic.
The car mechanic,
Dimitrios
Piatas, he doesn't
Piatas.
speak English.
Ah,
So
okay,
Dionysus
yes.
said, ask Piatas to come. And, I mean, he cannot understand what we are talking. And just because of his face, it's a famous now comic.
He's,
He
yeah,
was
he's very
young
famous.
when, 40 years ago, but now it's famous, Piatas. But it's Dionysus is fan of him.
Yes,
So
maybe,
it was
maybe we will organize
happy.
another screening in other time. So I let open this discussion, and now I will just finish. Thank you again. Watch the films on Festival Scope, or if you are in Bucharest at the Peasant Romanian Cinema. Tomorrow we have a new day of good films, we say. Be in time, because even if we use platforms, we keep this concept of being together at the same time to see the same film. So enjoy the festival and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Nice.
you, and all the best.